and we have already finished diuretics and drugs acting on urinary system. I hope there are no difficulties. Yes, Sahili has requested for PowerPoint. I'll share it on Google Classroom platform shortly. But I'll send the reply which I sent to second year also, that these slides, they are small points actually. Okay, the depth you get only in books, and therefore I'll suggest you to read books. Points are there. On the basis of these points, or on the basis of the classification we have made, you can go for books, because pharmacology is a vast science, and we have always a limitation that all the details cannot be added in each and every file. So I'll suggest you to read good books instead. Okay, but no problem. Yes, I'll give you. I hope whatever you have studied and you have not difficulties. I enjoy the way you people are interacting on WhatsApp group also. Very good. I appreciate it. And let us go ahead. Anti-anemia drug. Everybody know about anemia. What is anemia? Deficiency of RBCs. Okay. Any other thing? Have you ever encountered the classification of anemias? Okay. No problem. No problem. No problem. Yes. Okay. We'll go ahead. So let us see one by one what it is and how we can take care of it. So we know that we have got a hemopoietic or hematopoietic system. There are variety of cells which are present in that, and particularly important are erythrocytes, leukocytes, thrombocytes. Then in that we have got various nutrients which are exogenous and endogenous, and all are playing important role. What's your hematopoietic system is supposed to do. So what anemia is? It can be defined as a reduction in the hemoglobin, hematocrit, or red blood cell number. Instead of that, in very short form, if we want to make that it, whenever the person suffers from any kind of hypoxia, when there is a less oxygen supply to the tissue because of decrease in the oxygen carrying capacity, or because of decrease in the amount of blood. Okay. So in any case, when the tissue cannot get sufficient amount of oxygen, then we will call it as anemia. Okay. Then it can be because of many reasons. Okay. There are many things which are involved in that, and anything which is affecting that, that we will call it as a anemia. Okay. So it is most important, or it is most presenting manifestation of disease. When after pain, the anemia is a second, which is occurring very commonly. It is defined as a low hemoglobin, low RBC, or low RBC mass, or even less amount of blood, hemorrhagic problem can be there. The science shows that the patient is having pallor, fatigability, weakness, and pale conjunctiva. The redness of conjunctiva is reduced. Okay. Then we must have to understand the cause, because there are so many factors which are involved in that, and therefore we should have a good understanding of cause. We see how it is. So in that, when we shall see what are the types of anemia. So it is microcytic hypochromic anemia. The names are very clear about it. Micro means small, cytic is a cell, hypo means less, chromic is color. So, where the microcytic hypochromic means the blood cell size has decreased than normal. Which blood cell here? RBC. What is the normal size? Around 8 micron. So, if it is less than that and the darkness of the RBC has reduced, then we will call it as a microcyte hypochromic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia, then megalo means again increase in the size. Pernicious anemia, hemolytic anemia, where breakdown or lysis of hemoglobin takes place. Aplastic anemia, then sickle cell anemia, sideroblastic anemia. These are some variety or most common varieties of anemia which are occurring. Now, we shall see what are the causes. If we go for the root cause, it may be diminished production or decrease in the RBCs. We know that every 120 days RBCs are to be recycled, okay, and this every 120 days new RBCs are formed. So, when the rate of degradation is not matching the rate of formation, then slowly RBCs can go down, and because of that RBCs are there. In certain cases like hemolytic anemia or sickle cell anemia, the RBCs are more prone to get damaged or destroyed, and because of that it is there. Okay. Hemodilution is a technique which is not a cause of anemia, but it shows anemia like effect. Okay. So, when some saline or some other things are given in very high amount, so it may show like that, but yes, this is not a cause of anemia. Okay. Then let us see what are the basic reason behind all these anemias which we have seen. So, microcytic anemia, as I told you, it appears pale and smaller. We have seen that it is because of the deficiency of iron. Okay. So, it can be caused by chronic use of aspirin, which causes irritation of stomach because of that blood loss from GIT, or it can be because of decrease in the absorption of iron or decrease of intake of iron from the GIT, deficiency of iron. Okay. So, that can be because of any reason. There can be many reasons for that kind of deficiency, and we shall see again iron absorption at that time. We shall know in some more details. So, these are the reasons, and therefore, shortly we relate microcytic anemia with iron or less amount of iron than required. Then normocytic anemia, normo again it is normal in size, okay, there is no change, but it may be because of the deficiency of erythropoietin. You know about erythropoietin, you might have learned it earlier in second year anatomy physiology, formation of blood and various stimulating factors, or we call them as a colony stimulating factor. So, one of these is erythropoietin, which causes erythropoiesis, and it is the driving factor or driving material in the erythropoiesis. Then next is a macrocyte. Macro means the size has increased to what we call it as a megaloblastic type. So, here there is a deficiency of folic acid and vitamin B12, and because of decrease in these both important vitamins which play important role in synthesis of the RBC components. So, there is a diminished cell division and release of larger cell in the circulation. So, number of cells they are decreasing, and therefore, the number of cells are less and size is more. So, this is what variety of this one. Another cause of anemias are because of the breakdown of RBCs. So, it may be more bleeding, uncontrolled bleeding. Why there is uncontrolled bleeding? We have seen some of the things when we have seen coagulation and anticoagulation. We have seen that if the situations are there, example, the person is on warfarin treatment or anticoagulant treatment and gets injury. So, blood loss can be excessive, or there are if INR is not maintained, we have seen that there are chances of bleeding. These are the external reasons. There can be some internal reasons also, because of the gastric ulcers, or because of severe wound, or because of injury, or particularly in females because of heavy loss of blood during menstrual cycles. So there are a variety of reasons why there is a less, or why there is a increase in blood loss in these persons. Then there are use of various drugs that can cause irritation to GI tract, maybe aspirin like drug. Then hemolysis, this can be because of many reasons. Hemolysis means breakdown of RBCs, and that particularly is called as hemolytic anemia. It can be because of autoimmune diseases. Okay. Or if you know, you might have studied it, when wrong blood group is there, it can cause problems of the RBCs are clumped together, and they are prone to loss. So it can be there. There are many reasons for hemolysis. There are certain drugs which can also promote hemolysis. Then certain diseases are there, autoimmune diseases are there, in which there is more hemolysis. Example, we have seen sickle cell anemia and other such genetic disease, or hemophilia like diseases. Then mechanical problems are there because of heart wall microvascular diseases, and the persons are on anticoagulant treatment. Toxins like snake venom that can cause hemolysis. So these are a variety of reasons why there are there. So if we want to correct, why we need that it should be there, what is the problem if anything happens, or the anemia is there? Can anybody, what can be the consequences? Why you need to treat anemia? Why you want to treat anemia? Okay, to avoid ischemias. Yes, suffer severe problem means what, Akash? Fatigue. Okay, that way fatigue is not severe problem. Breathlessness, we can say. Yes, okay. Then the major thing is, most important thing is, it's simple. Okay, if hypoxia is the outcome of that, yes, but what is the outcome of hypoxia is, if the tissues are not receiving sufficient oxygen. Why we need oxygen? Yes, next is cell injury. Okay, why the oxygen is needed? The consequences of anemia is hypoxia, isn't it? The consequence of anemia, that because we have already seen the simplest form of defining anemia is where there is a decrease in the oxygen carrying capacity. So when there is a decrease in the oxygen carrying capacity, we can call it as a hypoxia. When there is a hypoxia, the next step is in that is what? It is providing less oxygen to the tissues. If it is providing less oxygen to the tissues, that means the tissues are deprived of the normal quota of oxygen, normal level of oxygen which was to be there. If it is not there, they will not able to perform the functions normally, because they don't have the input for that. They are not having the major source of energy to which is required to carry out various functions for that given cell, and because of that this constant hypoxia which cause reduction in the cellular function, even ischemic type of injuries, and slowly gradually can cause the multi-organ failure, what is happening, or even before multi-organ there is chance that any vital organ like brain tissue, brain, kidney, liver, heart, if these organs are damaged, then definitely it can be a very serious consequence, and therefore the treatment is needed. And what is the treatment? The drug which are used for the treatment of anemia, we call them as hematinics. Means basically these are the drugs which are expected to increase the oxygen carrying capacity by one or other means. Usually they are either increasing the count of RBCs or they are increasing the count of hemoglobin. Okay, this is how these drugs are acting. And then according to the cause, as we have seen earlier, that in case of anemias we should understand the cause, which is very important. Therefore we have defined them: microcytic, normocytic and macrocytic, or with other name. And we have seen that all these are having a very typical thing. Some are depending on iron, some are depending on vitamin B12 or folic acid, some are depending on erythropoietin, etc. That means that, and if we do not diagnose it properly, then the hematinic may not be appropriate in that condition. So first step in that is the person should diagnose it properly. Once it is properly diagnosed, then we can go for the appropriate treatment. Otherwise treatment will not be useful. That means all hematinics they do not serve the same purpose. So different hematinics have a different utility in different kind of anemias. I hope it's clear. Okay. So we shall see these one by one. We should understand few things before that. Okay, that is how erythropoietin is there. What erythropoietin is there? Erythropoietin cell is we can call it as a hormone. Okay, or it is a sort of stimulating factor that is increase the renal arteries are there. They are causing or they are responsible for producing erythropoietin. That's why whenever we shall see in most of the renal injuries, when there is acute or chronic renal failure, in that case erythropoietin has to be administered. It has no role on the kidney or renal system, but that has to be given, because when there is a damage to kidney, then the erythropoietin is not secreted properly, and if erythropoietin is not secreted properly, then it will not able to make sufficient number of RBCs, and if it is not making sufficient number of RBCs, then it is resulting into anemia. This anemia is causing many causes. One more cause can be again affecting kidneys, because kidney already were having a problem. Now the kidneys are receiving hypoxic blood, and because of hypoxic blood again not sufficient energy to do the functions, and it can cause the cascading effect on the problem. So problem can increase. Okay. So there are how it is happening, what is the cycle of it, we can see it, that normally erythropoietin is produced in the peritubular interstitial cell in kidney. These will reach to bone marrow. Before attaining age of 7 weeks or more, or in the infancy, the liver is making erythropoietin up to 6 weeks post birth. Okay, or in a anephric individual in which kidneys are not there, kidneys are not working, they are doing dialysis, but the amount is small. Okay, the major contributor is kidney. So we know the effect of that it causes increase in we shall see also in our next slide. It causes, erythropoietin is a stimulator of RBC production, it will stimulate it. What erythropoietin is around 3400 kilodalton protein, which is having two forms, alpha and beta form. Okay, if available, it can be given because it is a very big molecule, so it cannot be given by oral or such routes. So it can be given by intravenous route, and half life is around 10 hours. If it is given by subcutaneous route, the half life is around 11 hours, and it has to be regularly given in the patients, particularly having problems of kidney or renal failure, acute or chronic. Let us see how the things are there, and it is its release is actually the oxygen deficit or hypoxia is acting as its feedback factor. So whenever there is oxygen deficit, it will cause release of erythropoietin, and let us see what happens. Okay. So we know, if you go back into your anatomy, physiology and blood chapter, we know that there is a stem cell, or we call it as a pluripotent cell, which is the first cell and from which various kind of cells are derived. Okay. And this if you remember the formation of variety of blood cell from the pluripotent stem cell, then you can understand this, and there are various precursors, they are acting on that. So these are various interleukins 1, 3, 6, 11. Okay. Yes, 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 it can be given, and not only radiation, but whatsoever chemotherapy is there, chemotherapy can cause we call it as a pancytopenia. Okay. So in that cases also, but depending on if other suitable routes, suitable modes are there. So depending on different cancer situation, we can prefer different treatment. So it can be seen later, but yes. Then see, this is a stem cell, or we call it as a pluripotent stem cell. These are a variety of agents which are causing its stimulation. Then what are the factor which are inhibiting this cell division or cell differentiation, rather we will call it as a from stem cell to the further cells. This is a cell division along with cell differentiation. So there are certain inhibitors like tissue growth factor and mitogen induced protein factor 1 alpha, like that. So these are various agents. Then we reach to a stage that is which causes colony forming, and we have got colony forming units are there. Okay. Then next one is the mature the units are there. Again, colony forming unit C will be there. Then pronormoblast will be there, and you can see at a variety of phases, variety of things are acting. If you remember, there are variety of colony stimulating factors are there, CSFs. So here GM means granulocyte and monocytes. These are there. Okay. So variety of CSFs are there, which will help in the differentiation into a variety of WBCs. As it goes ahead, then erythropoietin and interleukin 3 are there. Then other factors are there. Then insulin like growth factor, that is IGF-1 is there. Then these are the further steps by which erythrocytes are formed. So we know that for erythrocyte formation, or there is a stimulation or increase in the differentiation in RBCs, the erythropoietin is playing important role, and therefore these growth factors are very important. They are also important particularly in other conditions where other WBCs are getting less. We shall see them, as I told you on Sanika's question. Let us see these one by one. So there are GM-CSF, I told just now. There is a granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factor. The drug is available on that, that is called as a sargramostin. So it acts synergistically with interleukin 3 to stimulate the formation and proliferation of colony forming, that is CFUs, colony forming cells, and from CM this colony forming units or colony forming cells, variety of its subdivisions. You can see that CFU GEMM, then BFU, CFU MEG, that is colony forming unit, granulocyte, macrophage, colony forming unit of macrophage, erythropoietin, like that, or that is erythrocytes. So this is there. It increases the cytotoxic phagocytic activity of mature granulocytes. Then other agents in that is interleukin 3, IL-3, we have seen in earlier picture, that it is one of the cytokine. It acts synergistically with GM-CSF to stimulate the formation of granulocytes, macrophages, eosinophils, and megakaryotes. It acts synergistically with erythropoietin to stimulate the formation of this. I am missing the name. These forming units of erythrocytes, E means, and it induces colony forming units, and it causes leukemic blast cells into a cell cycle. So, blast cells, if you remember, there are two types of cells. If you remember the cell division and cell differentiation and tissue, blast cells and class cells. So, blast are the immature cells which grow into the mature cells slowly. So, blast cells are the initial stages, and class cells particularly we see in bone or osseous tissue. They causes reabsorption or resorption, we call it as a resorption of the bone tissue to make them active again and again. So, there is always a equilibrium between blast and class cells in bone. Here the blast cells are immature cells, and when because of one or other reason the maturity is affected or it is slowed down, then we can see the blast cells which are coming. Reticulosis is one of the such condition where the RBCs with nucleus or with higher size they come into, and because of the poor differentiation that happens, but the functions are not proper one, and hence this is the problem. So, these are some of these. Then there are more such hematopoietic growth factors are there, that is colony stimulating factors, that is CSF1 or M means just we have seen, that is macrophage colony stimulating or monocyte colony stimulating formation and function. So, they are acting synergistically with GM, that is granulocyte, and monocyte or macrophage CSF, and interleukin 3. It stimulates the colony formation. One more is there, that is granulocyte colony stimulating factor only. Example of this is filgrastim. This acts synergistically with interleukin 3, GM-CSF and CSF1 to stimulate the formation of megakaryotes, granulocyte, macrophage, and high proliferative potential colonies. And so, this once HPPs are there, high proliferative potential colonies are there, they can further proliferate or develop into the subparts into that. You just possible if possible you refer the cell division picture in various this one for cell division or from cell differentiation from pluripotent stem cell to a different kind of cells, how it happens in physiology. So, they are playing important role in such kind of differentiation. Then next in that is the one more type is there, that is called as a thrombopoietin. Thrombo, you understand what it is, platelet you call as a thrombopoietin. So, it increases the size and number of these megakaryotes which are resulting into platelets. Interleukin 1 is also useful in stimulating production of that. It increases the concentration of early megakaryotic cells and in bone marrow, and therefore, it increases the megakaryocytic endomitosis. Thus, it increases the platelet size and number of platelets in the plasma. So, the important in that is or those which are available in market. We shall see erythropoietin later also. So, erythropoietin is available as 100 international unit per kilogram SCR by intravenous 3 times a week. The brand is darbepoetin. Various preparation like Epox, Zyrob, Eprex, they are available. Then various colony stimulating factors, just we have seen filgrastim and another one. So, they are available. So, this GCSF and GMCSF are available. Filgrastim or PEG means it is not a something. It is many time in drugs also you will hear this, that is called as pegylated, or that is PEG is a polyethylene glycol. So, that is added into the drug so that its release is slow and absorption is particularly maintained and it is solubilized properly. So, it is a formulation factor which is there. So, it is, we can call it as a filgrastim and pegylated filgrastim. These are the agents. So, then other are megakaryote growth factors, interleukin 11. These are such different kind of agents which are being used or which can be available. So, first is erythropoietin. It is a cytokine which is produced in the juxtatubular cells in the kidney and also available from macrophages. Nowadays, it is produced by recombinant technology. It is available as epoetin A alpha and epoetin beta. The dose are 25 to 100 international unit per kg subcutaneously or intravenously 3 times a week. Mechanism already we have seen that it is acting through the interleukin type of receptor, and it plays a role similar to what it has played in physiology to stimulate the differentiation of RBCs from the blast cells or immature cells. So, where we use them? We use them in chronic renal failure, end stage renal diseases. Already I told you it does not have any functional role in renal failure or end stage renal diseases, but we use them because it has affected the erythropoietin production severely, and to compensate it we are adding into the therapy. So, erythropoietin has no role, we have not studied it under drugs acting in the renal problems. We have seen, we are seeing it in the this because we are using it, anemia because chronic renal failure, end stage renal disease. Then I am answering your question, Sanika, cancer chemotherapy, AIDS, anemia caused by AZT, suppression of bone marrow. Then it can be used in premature infant where erythropoietin is not produced, which was dependent on mother's erythropoietin and RBCs. Now we have to give during blood transfusion to increase RBC level for autologous blood donation. Anemias are associated with rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. What are the adverse effects of erythropoietin? It causes flu-like symptoms. It causes mild hypertension. It may cause encephalopathy, occasionally convulsions, risk of thrombosis due to hematocrit rises. All of a sudden RBCs increases, then because of that hematocrit will rise, and because of that the viscosity of blood can increase, and that Rolex formation of RBCs are there. They may cause occlusion of one or other small artery, and if it is important, if it is the major one, then it may cause thrombus in that particular organ. Then next is, we have seen iron is very important constituent or important part. Let us think about it, what it is. So, iron is very important. Daily diet contains around 10 to 20 milligram of iron. Out of that hardly 5 to 10% of the iron is absorbed, and out of whatsoever absorbed, for that very important thing is the factor is there. Hematocrit is, if you know about ESR, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, then hematocrit is the value when once it is centrifuged, if the blood is centrifuged with proper chelating agent, then with that particular time and particular thing, then RBCs are settled down. So when it settled down, it gives the number of you count RBC number. Here we calculate RBC volume with hematocrit. Okay. So this is hematocrit when they are put into centrifugal tube and they are centrifuged. Then whatsoever sediment is there, that is called as a hematocrit. Understood, Sanika? So this is important is when it is there, very important thing is in stomach only it gets absorbed, it is not in intestine. And the very important iron is there, that is called as transferrin, which is doing the job of transport of iron, because iron is iron in nature, and that too a divalent or large iron, which is not easily crossing the cell membrane barrier. So since it is not possible, it is problem. Okay. The 1 to 2 milligram of iron is per day absorbed, and same number or same value of iron is per day lost because of disc formation of epithelia, in which some of the iron is present. So during disc formation of epithelium, particularly the squamous epithelium is continuously getting removed, and from that a small amount of blood and small amount of the tissue debris is thrown away. It may go in feces, it may be in GIT, and particularly in this GIT it is more prominent, discommission is. So it is lost during that. So how where this iron goes? 70%, 75% of the iron goes for making hemoglobin through erythropoiesis mechanism. Then 10 to 20% is going to liver and heart, particularly in the form of ferritin. So ferritin is iron store of the body. Okay. And 5 to 10% is utilized by other processes, where heme is one of the coenzyme or cofactor in enzyme or such important activity. You might see that the ions are playing important role in inorganic chemistry. Somewhere you might have read that the micro and macronutrients and various important ions in the body. So in that you might have seen that various ions are playing important role in various biological processes. So in 5 to 15% that is playing a role. So when ingested the acid in the stomach, the acid will cause ionization of iron. It splits the chelated food iron from the chelator, and it maintains iron in a soluble form. It allows iron to remain in the absorbable form. We shall see the iron absorption again in coming slides. So that is how the iron is doing it. Now what happens? We have seen already what kind of anemia it causes is. We have seen it causes a microcytic, and the color is less, so hypochromatic. So we have seen this kind of anemia with iron. So it causes pallor, it causes fatigue, it causes dizziness, it causes exertional dyspnea, because body tries to compensate the hypoxia with increase in the respiration. This is physiological. So there is because of that there is a dyspnea. Why there is a problem? It can be because of faulty absorption or dietary deficiency, faulty absorption, faulty transport, and faulty storage. Anything can be there. Because of that, iron is not properly absorbed or properly transported to liver and other portions. And we have seen ferritin is a storage form of or format of the iron. So it is not there. That is one reason. Then during excessive blood loss, certain worm infestation, when we will go for anti-anthelmintics, at time we shall see that there are certain worms which are causing the utilization of iron, and then therefore the absorption of iron will be less in where the worms have already infested, and in that cases the some anemia will be developed in the patient. We need to treat worm first and then give some hematinics to them. So, maximum iron absorption that takes place in duodenum and jejunum. Heme iron and non-heme iron, they are two important constituents which are present. Ascorbic acid, then thiols, SH group things are there, then succinic acid, they facilitate the conversion of ferric to ferrous form, which plays important role in absorption. Okay. All bodies need iron. It is crucible for oxygen transport, energy production and cellular growth and proliferation. So, iron is very, very important. The human body contains around average of 3.5 gram of iron. Normally, around males will have 4 grams, female will have 3 grams. We have already seen about normal dial and how much is absorbed. So, what is the importance of iron? It forms the nucleus of iron porphyrin heme ring. Because of that, you might have studied it in biochemistry also and physiology also. This with the globin chain, it forms hemoglobin. We know what is the function of hemoglobin, and if it is not there, then we have already seen earlier that it causes microcytic hypochromic anemia in absence of adequate iron. So, we have already seen how it is absorbed, but let us go in more detail about it. It is mainly absorbed in duodenum and upper jejunum. The protein which is called as a divalent matter transporter 1, that is DMT1, that causes facilitation of iron transportation across intestinal epithelial cells. Normally individually absorb less than 10% of dietary or up to 1 to 2 milligram, we have seen this. Most absorbed iron is used by bone marrow for erythropoiesis, that also we have seen, and it is closely regulated by intestinal absorption. Once it is absorbed, there is no physiological mechanism for excretion of excess iron from the body other than blood loss. So, through blood loss only the iron is lost, and through that it comes. Okay. Then most absorption iron is transported in bloodstream, which is bound to the glycoprotein that is known as a transferrin. We are seeing this mechanism. It is a carrier protein that plays role in regulating transport of iron from site of absorption to all the tissues. It can bind only 2 iron atoms, and 20 to 40% of transferrin binding sites are filled. Okay. And they are measured as a percent transferrin saturation, that is TS. So, let us see the mechanism. So, food which is rich in the iron, we will call it as a food Fe. The HCl and organic acid in the food, they will, and in presence of ascorbic acid, which is organic acid, or vitamin C, and in presence of SH, we have seen just below, just above, that is called as thiol group. SH is a thiol group. So, cysteine is the amino acid which is containing SH group. So, these will convert into this ferric form into ferrous form. This ferrous form is easily absorbed with the transferrin. Okay. And this transferrin takes round of this, then with enzyme like peroxidases, it again converted into ferric. Now, ferric cannot go back to lumen, and it binds with ferritin, and then it makes the ferroreductase, and then that is again taken in. Then in plasma there is a molecule, that is apotransferrin, which converts into transferrin, and this goes to liver, spleen, and acts as a ferritin stores and hemosiderin. Hemosiderin is one of the component or product of hemoglobin. It goes to bone marrow, forms hemoglobin. In muscles it forms myoglobin, and in other tissues and cytochrome P450 enzyme system, it acts as a coenzyme or cofactor. So, this is how this is what the iron situation is. So, it is used, how it is there we have already seen in detail. and 75% it goes to hemoglobin and involved in the oxygen transport, and remaining goes to storage pool and it acts in other activities. It is initially stored in a ferritin molecules. A single ferritin molecule can store up to 4000 iron atoms. When excess dietary iron is absorbed, the body responds by producing more ferritin to facilitate the iron storage. Okay. So, it stores thousands of iron atoms within their mineral core when excess dietary iron is absorbed. So, the body will respond by producing more ferritin to facilitate the iron store. And what are the therapeutic uses of iron then? We have seen the iron deficit or microcytic hypochromic anemia, we have seen the reason. In hookworm infestation, where the hookworms, that is, I told you the worms are there, and anthelmintic drugs or anthelmintic, when we shall see what hookworms are there. We normally do not call it as infections. When the worms are there, we call them as infestation. Okay. In case of bacteria or viruses, we may cause as infection. The word changes when they are present in the body, we call them as a infestation. Then they are required during pregnancy because the demand of iron is increased for mother and fetus. The new body is getting formed, and for that more oxygen, more nutrients are required. So, during that it will be required. Then in malabsorption syndrome, where the iron is not properly absorbed, in that case it is required. We have seen the reason why in premature babies we need either erythropoietin or iron, because the system is not properly developed. During blood loss, maybe injury or other thing, during that to come back to the normal level we need. Then we need it in the treatment of gastrointestinal bleeding, which may be due to ulcers. The ulcers might have caused because of one or other reasons. There are multiple reasons which can cause ulcers. Aspirin can also cause one or other kind of ulcer. So, maybe because of aspirin and maybe because of the excess consumption of coffee. So, these are various reasons why there can be the why we need iron. Iron is available in variety of preparations. So, it is oral iron, it is available as a ferrous sulphate. Also there are other ferrous format also that we shall be seeing. They are having around 300 milligram thrice a day. Side effects are extremely mild, nausea, upper abdominal pain, or we call it as iron cramps. They are their abdominal pain means. It can cause constipation or diarrhea depending on the patient. It is cheapest form of iron and one of the most widely used agent. Parenteral is called as iron dextran. It is given by intramuscular or intravenous route. Patient who cannot tolerate or absorb oral iron, in that cases it has to be used, because if they do not have a proper absorption system, we have seen that transferrin molecule and all which are required. We have seen the presence of vitamin C, presence of cysteine and all. If it is not working properly, then the iron is not absorbed, even though whatsoever kind of we give. So, in that cases, because and that what we call it as a malabsorption syndrome. So, if in that cases it is not wise to give them in a oral format, then we have to give them in a parenteral format only. Then in case of prolonged salicylate therapy or dialysis patient, we have to give them in a parenteral format. Okay. Then next in that is other formulations. Ferrous sulphate, as we have seen, similarly only mole to mole basis the dose is calculated. Ferrous sulphate is smaller, gluconate has got gluconate moiety with that, then ferrous fumarate. These are some of the ferrous compounds which are used orally. Okay. Ferrous sulphate, we can say that it is a prototype of it, just like last year you have seen beta blocker propranolol is a prototype. So, ferrous sulphate is a prototype of it, and on the mole to mole basis the ferrous gluconate or ferrous fumarate can be given. Definitely the gluconate fumarate doses will be higher than sulfate, because if we calculate the molecular weight, gluconate part and fumarate part can have higher molecular weight, and therefore, we have to compensate equal amount of ferrous component into it. Then other parental we have seen earlier, iron dextran. Similarly, we have iron dextran, iron sucrose, iron sodium gluconate. These are variety of such complex which are forming this carbohydrate and sugar complex, or this glycation of it, and because of this complexion it is somewhat solubilized and can be given. There are problem, but with parenteral is if it is intramuscular, it can cause pain, it can cause coloration, because iron is causing pigmentation like thing. So, these are the problems with parenteral one, but definitely parenteral are chosen when oral is not responding because of malabsorption or other reasons. So, these are the preparations. Okay. So, when we give them, it should be continued for 3 to 4 months after correction of the cause of iron loss. Loss is to be corrected, as we have seen. If it is the reason is worm infestation, then we have to see that first we are treating the worm infestation, we are giving the proper anti-helminthic drugs, then we are going for that. Okay. So, these are there. Common adverse effect we have already seen, nausea, epigastric, abdominal cramps, constipation, diarrhea, etc. These are the important side effects. These are dose related and can overcome when we stop the drug. Then or if we lower the daily dose of iron, we can give, or the best way is we can ask patient to take the tablet immediately after or with meals, so that the abdominal cramps will be minimum in the patients. Okay. So, this is how parenteral is there. It is reserved already. We have seen that documented iron deficiency, we are unable to either tolerate or absorb. Those who face immediately severe constipation, severe cramps, or severe diarrhea, these are the patients which are not able to tolerate. And absorption, again it can be proven that despite of oral treatment, iron level in the blood are not increasing. The patient with extensive chronic blood loss who cannot maintain with oral, there we can give. So, post gastrectomy condition, that is where GIT has removed, the previous small bowel resection is there, inflammatory bowel diseases which are causing very much irritation is there, and this can act, and malabsorption syndrome. In this patient we can use parenteral iron therapy. We have already seen these preparations. Okay. These are the how they are given. They are deep intramuscular injection or by intravenous. Intravenous has to be given very slowly, and already I told you about they causes local pain and tissue staining. Okay. Same is the intramuscular also, because iron is having a stain producing property. Side effects of these are headache, lightheadedness, fever, arthralgias, that is pain in joints, nausea, vomiting, back pain, flushing, urticaria, bronchospasm, and rarely anaphylaxis and death can be there because of iron. Hypersensitivity reaction may be delayed by for 48 to 72 hours of the administration, and small test dose of iron dextran should be always given before full intramuscular or intravenous dose, otherwise it can be very severe and fatal type of reaction it can cause. So, although it is number are very less, 1 or 2%, but then it can be very risky those who are having this. This we shall be having throughout this year. We have to go through this. We shall see this kind of situation in variety of antibiotic like agents, antimicrobial agents, and in many other drugs also, that how that reaction can be dangerous in patients. So, iron sucrose complex or iron sodium gluconate complex, there are alternative preparations. They can given only by intravenous route, and they are comparatively less likely have hypersensitivity than dextran. So these are the advantages. These are having only problem is they have to be given only by intravenous route. So this is how the requirement is there, around male per day around 0.5 to 1 milligram, female 1 to 2 milligram, children 25 milligram is requirement, daily requirement, because children are growing and they need more oxygen for their productive activities. So we need it. We have already seen about absorption and active transportation and various storing, that is ferritin like structure and all, and this is how the iron is working. Okay. Hemosiderin granules can be seen with iron overload and gives rise to hemosiderosis or bronze disease, bronze diabetes it is also called as. It gives bronze pigmentation to the skin because of this hemosiderin protein which is containing heme and getting deposited in the skin. Okay, and it can also cause the diabetic like situation. So this is how we have seen about what variety of chances we are having for iron deficiency anemias. Their doses we have, you can go through the doses as such. Already I told you how much elemental iron they are producing. 20% of elemental iron are producing in 100 milligram. So this much is elemental iron which is available, and on that basis we have to produce the doses. So these are various drugs. We shall see this next time. We have seen that how vitamins are important, and in that we shall see how they are useful. Okay. Akshay Devre wanted to come now, but it is almost over now. See, the rest of thing we shall go for next class. Is there any difficulty into this? It is body mechanism. It is for excess iron, somewhere it has to be put, because we don't have any other way to do it. Okay. So therefore it goes into hemosiderin pathway. Okay. So here we finish. No, we have already seen, no, iron excretion is a big problem. Iron cannot be excreted as such. We have seen iron has to be excreted through blood loss, and it is when the blood loss is there, particularly when there is a desquamation, squamous tissue is going or it is removed, at that time it happens. Okay. No, it has to be broken down first. Okay. So this is very good. I appreciate all your active participation, and